Okay, we're good to go.
Thank you, Mrs. Bailey. Good evening, everybody. This is Chris Hankey, the superintendent. I'm joined by Sherry Bailey, our director of technology, and Al Saluka, our treasurer CFO, to talk about the beginning of school in terms of COVID protocols and keeping everyone safe. The first thing I'd like to talk about is that we did come to the decision through our COVID task force to have universal masking in all of the school buildings, pre-K through 12, every building will be masking all employees and students for at least the first 5 weeks of school. During that time, we're going to continue to monitor the infection rates in the community and whether or not we can modify that determination around week 5. This was done out of an abundance of caution, considering guidance from the Centers for Disease Control, the United States Centers for Disease Control, the Ohio Department of Health, and the Cuyahoga County Board of Health. They have all made recommendations for masking. A couple of reasons for this. One is the Delta variant of the COVID-19 virus is shown to be very, very contagious. And we all know that masking, unfortunately, over this time, we've found out that masking is one of the great preventatives to combat COVID infection. Secondly, we do understand that there are students that have had the opportunity, ages 12 and up, to be vaccinated. However, we don't know what students are vaccinated and quite frankly, we don't know exactly. We know that a large percentage of our staff is indeed vaccinated, but not everyone. So we believe masking will help there. With that, we just want to go over a couple of logistical things. Please make sure that you're bringing your own mask. That's going to help with comfort rather than having to wear a disposable one-size-fits-all mask. So students can wear their own masks. We don't have any prohibition on neck gaiter masks, but they just have to make sure to cover the nose and mouth. Secondly, I want to throw it to Mr. Saluka to talk a little bit about sanitation and some other matters in terms of what we will be continuing to do in our buildings.
Thank you, Mr. Hankey. I just want to follow up with what we've done last year and what we will be continuing to do this year. First of all, 4 of our 5 buildings still have the air ionization units installed and working. So we are going to be still moving the air in those ionization ionization units are still in place and still continuing to work to weed out any of the airborne pathogens that we have. As far as the middle school, we've installed, like last year, we've installed a whole building air movement system. It's the best we can because we still have the old univents, so we could not install ionization units in each of the univents. It would not serve the purpose, but it was told to us, and there was a studies done, that air movement in that building, if there's continuous air movement with open windows, it moves the pathogens through the air and out, and it circulates down with fresh air and moving the bad air out. So we will have that in place. Unfortunately, and this is something we're still working on, is that building is not air conditioned, and we understand that. So we're going to be working on fans, opening windows, and trying to do the best we can. We know that August and September are going to be bad months for the middle school as far as warm air. We also know that it's going to be an issue for wearing masks in that middle school, but we are going to do the best we can to keep at least airflow moving and try to get it as comfortable as we can for that building. We're working on long-term solutions, but right now we're just doing the best we can with the airflow in that building. But moving along at sanitation, we will be following the same sanitation protocols that we had last year. We will have sanitation in the classrooms where we will be wiping down desks, and we will have hand sanitizer for our students to be able to put on their hands. Each classroom will have that readily available. We will also be instituting where custodians on a regular basis. We have misters and we have sprayers, and we're going to highly encourage custodians to go around the building and spray down highly touched areas, especially in the bathrooms where students will be using. So regular basis, we'll be doing that. We will not be opening up drinking fountains. Most of our buildings, not all, unfortunately, have where you have the water bottles that you could fill up. So we are highly encouraging you send your child with their own water bottle, and they will be able to either fill up at a water bottle station, or in the case of our elementaries, where you have a sink in the back and you can fill up your water bottle at the sink. So those are some of the sanitation areas that we're still concentrating on. You'll see in the buildings, we have pulled away a lot of the masking on the floor and social distancing. The requirements now are encouragement. They're not requirements. They are now encouraged that we maintain 3 feet of distance. So we were asking your child and we were asking the staff to highly encourage social distancing where applicable, in lines, when you're going to lunch, when you're going to the bathroom, when you're on the playground, to try to maintain as much social distance as you can. And so that's the steps that will be taken. One thing we will not do, Mr. Hankey, if you'll allow me, is we will not be, unless you were going to address this later on, we will not be taking children's temperatures as they come in the building. Our temperature monitors will be on, but they will do in mask. We are still asking parents, please, if your child is sick and running a temperature, please do not send them to school. We will be monitoring the doors and coming in. If your child feels sick as they get in the door, we ask them to go to an administrator, tell them, and then we will pull them aside and we'll get them in the nurse's station and take their temperature at that time. But we will not be doing it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Saluka, to chime in. I just want to answer a couple of questions that have come over the chat real quick. Can a child wear a mask for the entire school year? Certainly. We are not going to make a prohibition on masks. One thing the pandemic has taught us is that even without a pandemic, you know, it is good practice if you're not feeling well, even with a flu or something, to have a mask and also to stay home, obviously. So you're certainly welcome to do that. I do want to address this down here, but what are the options for parents that do not want their children to wear a mask? Right now, the mask is going to be mandated for 5 weeks unless there is a medical necessity prohibiting a child from wearing a mask, and that can be worked out through your building principal. We know that the mask is the best line of defense against infection, and we know that this will give us an opportunity to keep everybody safe. And Mr. Saluka, if you want to answer, there's just a busing question.
Absolutely. That was going to be my next topic here, busing. The question is how will busing be handled? Will there be separation between seats, or will the buses be the same as usual? With the encouragement by our state that all children go back to school, and which we wholeheartedly support, buses will be back to full capacity. Right now, we do not have enough buses and drivers to be able to have separation of seats, so buses will be back to full capacity. Mandatory masks on the bus, and that will be also our drivers' mandatory masks on the bus. So if your child, we will have, if your child, and we know this happens, we will have masks on the bus for anybody that doesn't come to the bus stop with the mask, but we are still highly encouraged that parents, please provide your child with a mask. That being said, due to the lack of drivers, we do not have enough drivers. We were push the out to the 2-mile limit per law. We had to push our bus routes out to the 2-mile limit because we do not have enough drivers to go below that. And unfortunately, what that did is it took a lot of families and students out of the equation of being able to get bus service where they once did before. Like I said, unfortunately, we didn't want to do that. We were forced to do that with the lack of staff. It's mandatory by law, 2 miles and farther, you have to provide transportation. Anything with anybody within 2 miles, we do not have to provide transportation. We did it as a benefit when we had the staffing to go below that 2 mile limit in the past. Unfortunately, now we do not have enough drivers to be able to go below the 2 mile limit and to get all the students to school on time. It's one of those things we're working on. I highly encourage, this is my sales pitch. If you know anybody or you would like to drive a bus, we train. We pay for your training. Contact our Department of Transportation and Transportation Supervisor Carrie Burkholz. We are also looking for van drivers. You do not need to get your bus driver's endorsement. You just need to have your license endorsed. I can't think of it right now. My mind's going blank. The truck driver endorsement, whatever that endorsement is, but you do not have to have a bus driver endorsement, which is a lot more training. So if you're interested in driving a van, please once again contact Carrie Burkholz at our transportation center. We need drivers. So if you're willing to step up and do, like I said, unfortunately, we would like to be able to provide the transportation as in the past. Unfortunately, we cannot do that at this time. I hope everybody is understanding that. I know 2 miles is a long way to get to school. I fully understand that. Unfortunately, right now, we just can't do it. So, but we're working on it. And if we do have additional drivers, then we will revisit that, the mileage thing.
Or Mr. Saluka, you got, are there alternate pickup stops if a child misses the bus?
There is not. We don't have, once there are now no alternate stops, you will get your stop. The bus stops will be coming out shortly. They will be online. Please go online to look up where your bus stop is. Ohio law, once again, does not allow us, for child safety reasons, to pick up a child at a stop that is not theirs. We need to keep track of the children who enter the bus, and we need to keep track of what their stops are. But so unfortunately, if you miss the bus, we cannot, you cannot drive down the street or chase the bus and try to get on. Our bus drivers are instructed that they need to move on. We have a strict time limit that we have to follow to get the students to school at their designated start times.
Another question, are updated bus schedules available yet?
They are going online. The board will be approving them at their regular meeting on Monday. And as soon as they're approved, they will be going up online Tuesday morning.
Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Couple things I would like to point out for all the parents. What I tasked the building principals to do was to have an opportunity for their open houses to occur before the start of the school year, because some parents, may have never been in our buildings because of the pandemic, and some have not been in our buildings in some time. So what the buildings came up with is we're gonna have open houses all in the same evening on August 23rd. We thought this was a good opportunity for parents because it's only one night where you can, if you have students at multiple buildings, you can go to each building during the designated time. That time will be coming out from the schools, and then you can also get a sense of the sanitation, some of the visible things that we have for safety and sanitation, and also, also the just to get a sense of how the building's going to function.
Hey, Mr. Hankey, real quick, yes. I just got a text from my maintenance supervisor. I misspoke. We have water bottle fillers in all of our buildings. Good. I said most of our buildings, but I'm pleased to say that they're in all of our buildings.
Excellent.
I misspoke there, and I want to thank my maintenance supervisor for correcting me and getting the right information out there.
Will there be reduced class sizes for social distancing? There will not. The emergency orders have expired in terms of a lot of the COVID things, and we know that the best course of action is to keep students safe, but also have them attend school. That's why the masking is extremely important for us. We will, where possible, where possible, have 3 feet of social distancing, but when students are in classrooms, that could be a little less. But we're certainly encouraging in the hallways and in common areas to social distance where possible. The one exemption from masking indoors will be at mealtime, and the cafeterias are spacious and should offer an opportunity for students to eat safely. I do real quickly, I'm going to share my screen for the audience because one of the things that has come up is quarantine and what that looks like. The first thing I will say is the state legislature has, the governor is not, quite frankly, will not act on this, and the state legislature is trying to prohibit mandatory quarantine. However, the Cuyahoga County Board of Health and the Ohio Department of Education and Ohio Department of Health have come up with a flow chart for quarantine, which we will follow, which we will put on the website. And Mrs. Bailey, I don't know if hopefully I have the opportunity here to share my screen. I apologize. I didn't let you.
Oh, hold on.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Just a second. I want to make sure this is big enough for everybody to see. Okay. Mrs. Bailey, does that look okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Looks good.
So this came out from the Ohio Department of Health. I'm not going to read everything, but let me go through it real quickly. We have, it asks if schools have the following in place. We are masking, we are maximizing physical distancing as much as possible. And we do have prevention policies and procedures. We are going to be publishing on our website tomorrow, as long as I can get the editing done, a very comprehensive frequently asked questions and information sheet on COVID protocols for the school year. And we will put that up, and we will also be linking to a COVID area of the website right in the front of the website. So if you follow the flow sheet down, the first thing is that if someone comes in contact with a person that has COVID, is that person vaccinated? Well, it makes the flow sheet really simple. We now understand that vaccine is our best way out of the pandemic. We know that. The school district is not mandating vaccine for those that are eligible. I personally am highly encouraging folks if they feel comfortable to get a vaccine if they are eligible. And if they did get it, if they are vaccinated, the individual can safely remain in the normal in-classroom setting. If the contact is not vaccinated but consistently wears a mask, which we are mandating, the contact can remain in the classroom setting. And they are encouraged, though, in their private, homes and things, even to wear masks if they do come in contact for 14 days. However, there is an exemption here. I see if you do get a PCR antigen test, which are two of the types of tests for COVID, 3 to 5 days after exposure, and you test negative, then you can relax your own masking. Quarantining happens when people are not masked, and that's just that's the advice from the Ohio Department of Health. Obviously, if a student or a staff member becomes ill with COVID, these are excused absences, and we will work with parents if they have to remain home to make sure that they are able to access their work as much as possible through the Google Classroom platform. We are going to put this on the website. I'm going to click out of this though, there we go. Couple other things about that. Not about that, excuse me. I do want to, and I will throw it to Mrs. Bailey in a second. One of the I would argue that we would say that there are very few positives that come out of the pandemic, but one of them was our opportunity to accelerate our project to get a computer in each student's hands. We know that that's very important generally, educationally, as we move forward. And we were able to provide a Chromebook for every student last year, and we are doing so this year. I would like Mrs. Bailey, though, to, you don't have to explain that process, but I know we have a number of folks that haven't returned Chromebooks yet, and where they have the opportunity to do that. So we can, reset and refurbish them for the coming school year.
And we actually just got a couple questions about if a child has to quarantine, will they be able to take a Chromebook home? And the answer to that question is yes.
Mhm.
We will have Chromebooks for all of our students again this school year. And that is true. Not all of them were returned. And if somebody still has a device at home, they can, now that all of our offices are open in our school buildings, feel free to drop it off at any one of our schools, really, or the Board of Education. But we will have a device for every student, and maybe the younger grades, maybe not taking them home every day, but certainly middle school and high school will be able to do that. So we're definitely going to be able to have those resources. There was another question here about if remote learning is still an option or not, which I believe I can answer that it's no. At this time, remote learning is not an option. All students are to be in school. So yeah, we're very excited and we're very proud of the fact that we've been able to supply the technology that our students need.
Thank you, Mrs. Bailey. Question here, does a kindergarten student have to wear a mask? The answer to that is yes. I personally have a child starting kindergarten this year. Masking is going to be important for her. This is personal experience. It's just become over time something that she's gotten used to. My suggestion, obviously, for all kindergarten parents, it's an anxious time. I'm getting anxious about it, but to practice the mask with them, to make sure that they understand the importance of masking. Second question, is there a plan if the variant gets worse? Right now, the Ohio legislature has, the Ohio law is mandated in-person learning, except for a process that's is not really workable here in the district and in most districts. So if in fact we have a major issue at a building, I will be working with my cabinet, Mr. Saluka, and the Board of Education and our legal counsel to explore what we will need to do to keep children safe while also being able to access education at home. Because currently that isn't allowed by law. If something does happen where the variant does get worse around the state, my sense is and this is what happened during COVID, is that we will be able to work through our professional organizations to reach, make sure that the laws, there are some emergency orders, and the governor has the opportunity to make emergency orders. And if it does get very bad, my assumption is that he may act there. But our first thought is if things do accelerate and there is a widespread infection, that we will have a plan to pivot out into a remote learning setting if we are able to do that. For children 11 and under, there is no virtual option. Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr.
No, Chris, I'd like to go back to that question. I think what the public needs to know is that, can you talk a little bit about our COVID task force that meets weekly? Mm-hmm. and we pivot as items come up, and we have a lot of think tank going on what ifs, mm-hmm. and preparing, and not just reactive but proactive if this happens and that happens. So we are able to keep up with all the latest issues and able to pivot and move forward. So if you would briefly talk about the task force. Certainly.
Right after the pandemic sent everyone home, I established a COVID task force consisting of 2 board members, our legal counsel, our head of security, our assistant superintendent of teaching and learning, our assistant superintendent of human resources, and our diversity and equity consultant. So we are looking at COVID related issues in education from multiple lenses. We are also meeting weekly because we want to make sure if things change, we have an opportunity to be proactive and to have systems in place to address changes. I do report out the COVID-19 agendas and things to the Board of Education. As I said, board members also sit on the committee. And we work with the Cuyahoga County Board of Health. Regional superintendents meet with them. Right now, it's kind of a bi-weekly basis. We'll see how things progress in the fall. It was up to weekly. Terry Allen, the Board of Health Director, is usually on the call with the superintendents from around the county and the surrounding counties. And we have opportunities to ask them questions and get clarifications. So we do look at that. All indications are that from a lot of the data from last school year and going into the school year is that we will be able to keep children safe, even if they're unvaccinated, with universal masking, with the airflow and ionization prevention, with sanitizing high-touch surfaces very, very frequently. But if there is an issue, we will be able to address it. Mrs. Bailey, I think we had some videos. The question, who will teach them to use the Chromebook? Do we have instructional videos for parents and children that's still available?
Yes, those are still available. And at the elementary schools, we have a technology teacher in each building. So that is going to be a great resource for helping the students, the teachers as well. Middle school and high school, it's a little bit different, but we also have computer teachers as well there that will provide some assistance. For the younger students in grades K1 and 2, our system that we use to log into our Chromebooks has essentially a QR code where all they have to do is present it to the camera and it logs them in with their username and password. So they don't have to type that long email address and remember a password specifically. So they'll get those copies at the beginning of the school year, for home as well as for school. So we'll definitely have resources, and those videos are still available.
That's good to hear. A couple other points that I'll make, and which will be in the FAQ. Parents, we love our parents, and we want you to be part of the school. But we also know, with COVID, we don't want to have unlimited visitors just popping into the buildings. So please, if you do need to access a building for a purpose, such as a meeting you may be having with a teacher, we're going to allow that. We're not going to completely eliminate visitors. However, we ask that you do call the main office to make an appointment if possible. Please don't just show up to the buildings. We are trying to limit access to keep all of the children and staff safe. With that being said, though, I would like to say that we will be having access for all of our mental health agencies and providers. They will be able to serve students and families in the buildings. So we are actually excited to welcome them back. That was I think it's one of our cornerstones of what we provide here at the district is the access for the providers to help with the social and emotional health and welfare of our students and families. Okay, I see this question. Please clarify if there is a student who has COVID in one of my children's classroom. Oh, let me be very clear here. If a student has COVID, they have to be excluded and follow the Ohio Department of Health and Cuyahoga County Department of Health quarantine guidelines. Students that have come in contact with that student, if they are masked, do not have to quarantine. Hopefully that makes some clarity. If someone, and I know we do know that there are some breakthrough infections, I will say this, statistically, even though we see a lot of news, they are actually rare. But if they do happen, if you've had vaccine and you do have a breakthrough infection, then the quarantine piece is valid for you. You do have to make sure you isolate yourself to keep everyone safe. Would like to put a plug in on a positive note. We will be starting off the football season. Outdoor athletic events are mask optional. We certainly encourage folks, if they're going to be congregating and they're unvaccinated, to wear a mask. We will be having our return of our family fun night in the north end zone of our football our football area, our football stadium, the parking lot next to it. We're going to have some raffles and some prizes. We have partnered with the Cleveland Browns this year for an attendance initiative. It's called Stay in the Game. We're going to roll that out on September 10th. We will have, and it will be safely served, we will have hot dogs and chips and water for everyone. We will make sure that we safely serve all those, and they're individually wrapped. And we're looking forward to a great night, and hopefully we'll cross our fingers that the weather cooperates. But it's really our first event we've been able to have for the community since COVID hit in person, and a larger event, and we're really looking forward to that. You'll get an opportunity to meet various central office and building administrators. They're certainly, I think some board members will be there. You'll be able to chat, and it'll also be an opportunity to sit with your neighbors and socialize. With that,
wait! You forgot the most important person that's going to be there, or not person per se.
Oh, Chomps, the Cleveland Browns mascot, not the live dog, the actual mascot, will be there circulating around the crowd. So that's going to be good. Cost for this is $10 for a family of 5. And that gets you into the event and a football ticket for each family member. Each additional family member over 5 is $2. So, if you've got 6, it would be, $7, et cetera. But we think that's a good value. I think it's going to be, hopefully the weather will cooperate, and we'll be able to also cheer on our Bulldogs for the first time without major COVID protocols in place where people can sit in stands. So, however, as Mr. Saluka, certainly with our Porta Johns and areas, we do have our misters that will be having folks, make sure that we still
spray them down regularly. Yes.
Yeah. Disinfect high touch surfaces. I think I've gone through my list, Mr. Saluka. Is there anything that we have missed? I know that there are some.
I don't think so. I think you hit it all, especially to start of school. I think we're put in place. Hopefully we put in place and we follow through, and we will be following through with our protocols for safety, as far as sanitation, as far as airflow, as far as masking, as far as social distancing. Those in place. I think, as you keep pointing out, Chris, and please know as a parent, your child's safety is our number one priority. Always has been, always will be.
Did see, this is a very good question. A parent wrote in here, we have some of our kids who have been vaccinated, but some who cannot get vaccinated yet, I'm assuming because of age. If we want to quarantine our other children in the event they come into contact with a COVID case, can we? Certainly, we will excuse absences, even if you're masked, but you feel that it's safer for your child to quarantine for some days, or maybe an opportunity to have a PCR test. We will allow that.
And real quick, Chris, do you want to follow up on your discussions of hopefully maybe getting a vaccination site at our schools?
Oh, yes. I apologize. Thank you, Mr. Saluka. I am in contact with a couple of one local pharmacy. We are trying to bring a vaccine clinic, and it'll probably be at our high school. And what we can do is we can send permission slips home for student vaccination, and we can do that during the day. We will also open up to the community as a drive-through vaccination site in the evening. I'm still working on this. I would like to say to everyone again, if you're hesitant, please please look into the vaccines. They are effective and safe, and they're available everywhere now. You can walk into a local pharmacy, an urgent care. You can call your doctor, but I mean, you can walk into basically any pharmacy and have the opportunity to become vaccinated. And I encourage you to research that. And if you think it's right for you, please do it. It's going to help keep everyone safe. However, I again want to reiterate, though, we are not, Garfield Heights City Schools is not mandating vaccine. We are not, we will not do that. But again, hopefully in the near future, if I can work it out with the pharmacy, we'll have a community vaccination event. So,
Hey, can I quickly put in a shameless plug?
Go ahead, Mr. Saluka.
As far as for business operations, just know that we are looking for cafeteria workers, housekeepers, bus drivers, van drivers, 1BH, 2BH, 3BH. Please go onto our website for open positions and apply today. We need your help. We are short-staffed and we need your help. So go onto our website, and if you have an inkling, please apply for one of those positions. And the term I couldn't think of was a commercial driver's license. You need to get that to drive our vans, but all it is taking a test at the Ohio Department of Transportation, one of their driver's license bureaus. So, yes, that's my shameless plug.
Very good. Yes, please join our team. We'd be happy to have you. If you meet the qualifications, we'd love to bring you aboard and to help us. See this question: if Google Classroom is available, why is it not an option for a parent to have students do work from home? The Google Classroom is not a full classroom experience. It is where teachers do post work. There's not an opportunity to have teachers do Zooming into homes for a variety of reasons, but basically it's not a best practice. It did help us make sure that we could offer education during the pandemic period last school year. Again, if there is a masking issue that you have, if you do want to seek a medical exemption or other exemption, please talk to your building principal. But there does certainly have to be a valid reason for it. I can't stress this enough: vaccines and masks keep us safe. And as we move forward with this, that'll be our way to a degree of pre-pandemic normalcy. As more folks get vaccinated and we wear a mask, that should help. Well, this is a little off topic, but certainly I'll answer it. Who do I contact about setting up an IEP at the high school? Please contact the office, the building principal, Ms. Hager, at this point, and they will help you through that process, and go from there.
Nice to have an educational question.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing we're really looking forward to, is having the students back, and having in-person education is going to be very helpful for all students as we move forward. Very good. I had a suggestion come in. I would like to share statistically. We had either 0 or less than 5 COVID cases originate in a school building. I believe it was 0, but I don't want to misspeak. The COVID cases that we did have came from outside the building, and parents reported, and then we followed the quarantine protocols. By and large, students were kept very safe when they were in our buildings with infection rates. We did not have any sort of an outbreak or a major issue. Some districts did. We did not. And I believe that was a great success for the school district, that we were able to keep children safe through masking, through air ionization, and
sanitization, and touch surfaces.
And we believe that all those protocols we put in place are going to be very helpful to us keeping all the children and staff safe as we move forward. Again, as I said, though, we do meet weekly in our task force to make sure we're addressing and being proactive with everything. Good question from a parent. Do we really think kids are going to social distance? I will say one thing. Children are very adaptable, and they unfortunately have been living through a pandemic for the last 18 or so months. As I mentioned in my own personal life, my daughter has learned to mask up. I just hand it to her, when we're walking into stores. Kids will. We understand that we're gonna encourage and work with them on social distancing, especially our younger ones, as best as we can. We do realize that sometimes they will bunch together. But I think that especially the older students, they will do this. They will make sure that they're being safe because they want to be in school. And the younger kids will make sure that we do our best to keep the social distancing going, knowing that yes, that can be challenging for some of our younger students. Well, Mrs. Bailey, is anything else coming through?
Another question about if classrooms will be regularly cleaned after each class like last year, where the students assisted in wiping off things.
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and we are going to have all the same measures in place for that, including the wipe downs and the sprays. Yes, we will highly encourage that again.
And what is the preschool and kindergarten start date? Are those the same dates?
Very good question. And unfortunately, I do not have it in front of me. If one of my staff is watching, it'd be great if you texted me. Sorry.
I just pulled up the calendar. Hang on one second. The 25th is for 1 through 12. Kindergarten begins the 30th and the 31st, and preschool begins on the 30th.
Thank you, Mrs. Bailey.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. And please watch the school's websites for updates on that. Again, I knew 1 through 12, August 25th. We're going to welcome all of our children 1 through 12 back. And then the 30th for kindergarten, you said, and then
30th and 31st for kindergarten and 30th for preschool.
Very good. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else coming through, Mrs. Bailey?
Question about supply lists, which I imagine those are going up on the website now for each school building. Question about some no distance learning option is available, which I believe we talked about that at this time there isn't not distance learning.
Correct.
I think that's most of the questions.
Okay. I encourage you again, we're going to, in the next day or so, bring up more COVID resources, including that flow chart I showed you in our frequently asked questions / information sheet on COVID. If you have further questions, I certainly encourage you to get in touch with your building principals, and you are more than welcome to call or email me. The number at the board office is 216-475-8100. Just ask for Chris Hankey and they'll transfer you over. And I try to get back to folks as quickly as possible.
Mr. Hankey, there's one last question about open houses on the 23rd, and what time will they be? Are they all different times, or?
We will get that information out. I think we may have gotten it out, but I will make sure it's up on the website tomorrow.
Okay, that sounds really good.
I'd like to thank everybody for joining us tonight, and hopefully more folks will watch the recording of this town hall. One of the other successes we had with communication throughout the pandemic were these virtual town halls. We will be continuing with them for important safety and COVID related types of things that need to be discussed, but also we will start to expand the town halls to talk about some education topics and to engage parents in our processes. Encourage all parents also. There's a portrait of a graduate link on our website right at the front. If you click on that, that'll take you to a link for our strategic plan. And that's a living document that we are working on to create action steps for. And it really ties together what we want Garfield Heights graduates to be and how we're going to help and serve our students. With that, I'll say good night. Thank you, Mrs. Bailey, Mr. Saluka, for joining me.
Good night,
It's
everyone.
our pleasure. My
Thank
pleasure.
you.
And
Thanks for inviting me to be on.
Yep.
Look forward to a successful school year. Have everybody back.
Absolutely.
yeah, me as well. Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.